I've signed a pledge that said I'd support the Republican nominee, and I intend to continue to do that. But look, here's a situation that we're in. On the one hand, I don't want Hillary Clinton to be the president of the United States. I don't want her to win this election. On the other hand, as I said, I have well-defined differences with the presumptive nominee of the Republican Party. And like millions of Republicans who try to reconcile those two things, I intend to live up to the pledge that we made.
Well, that was Marco Rubio in his first interview since ending his campaign, doing a delicate dance around the question of whether he will pull the lever for Donald Trump. But Senator Rubio isn't the only also-ran sending mixed messages today. Both Rubio and Ted Cruz were out suggesting that they will continue to support their party while tiptoeing around the specific questions of whether that means they will actually vote for Donald Trump. And Cruz added an even deeper wrinkle in an interview with Glenn Beck, suggesting he may be leaving the door open to getting back into the race if he does well in the Nebraska primary. Watch.
If there is a path to victory, we launched this campaign intending to win. The reason we suspended the race last week is with Indiana's loss, I didn't see a viable path to victory. If that changes, we will certainly respond accordingly.
Chief Washington correspondent James Rosen has more. James?
Megan, good evening. In his first appearance at his Senate office since February, Ted Cruz returned to what he called, with a touch of sarcasm, the welcoming embrace of Washington. The Texas senator made clear he has no plan to endorse presumptive GOP nominee Donald Trump anytime soon, no plan to release his delegates anytime soon, and no real plan to re-enter the race should he win Nebraska, as he seemed in a lighthearted interview with Glenn Beck earlier in the day to be leaving the door open to pursue.
We're not going to win Nebraska today. There should be no mystery, no excitement in that. We've withdrawn from the campaign, and it is in the hands of the voters. If circumstances change, we will always assess change circumstances, but I appreciate the eagerness and excitement of all the folks in the media to see me back in the ring, but you may have to wait a little bit longer for that.
Also making a splashy return to the Capitol, Marco Rubio, talking foreign policy at the conservative Hudson Institute think tank. The Florida senator, who is also holding on to his delegates, said he wouldn't spend the next 6 months taking shots at Trump, even as he rejected Trump's rhetoric about the U.S. paying too much to defend regional allies.
And I don't necessarily disagree that sometimes our efforts on behalf of others is disproportionate to what we think is the return or the gratitude of others. But we also have to understand that we have benefited from this arrangement economically, politically, geopolitically, even domestically. If you think back of what would Asia look like today if the United States had not been engaged in efforts to help Japan rebuild?
Now, the Cruz campaign, or what remains of it, met a 5 p.m. deadline on Monday to file a slate of delegates for the California primary next month. Cruz's state director told us that was just, quote, to keep faith with our supporters. Megan.
James, thank you. Joining me now with reaction, Herman Cain, a former GOP presidential candidate, Fox News contributor, and the author of The Right Problems, What the President, Congress, and Every Candidate Should Be Working On. Great to see you, Herman. Thanks for being here. What do you make of this Ted Cruz business? You know, if I win, okay, so he didn't win Nebraska. Then he said, oh, I knew I wasn't going to win Nebraska. But now this thing in California, is this guy thinking about getting back in, do you think?
I don't think so. He's throwing a handful of mud in the water. It was already murky enough with this whole anti-Trump, never Trump movement. So now Ted Cruz has just muddied the waters even more. Here's the other significant thing about him saying that and even alluding to it. I understand that he wants to try to give his supporters a little bit of hope. But this further divides the Republican Party. And Ted Cruz, like Marco Rubio, said they would support the ultimate nominee. Marco Rubio just said that he would. Ted Cruz is muddying the water and going back on his word. That's not going to get him a path to victory, and it's not going to set well with the voters.
How does you know, Ted Cruz even attempt to work this out with Donald Trump, or vice versa? Because, you know, Ted Cruz, last we heard from him on supporting Trump, he said, I'm not in the habit of supporting people who attack my wife. And then in the last day in Indiana, Trump attacked Ted Cruz's father, suggesting he was in on the JFK assassination. So that happened. So who reaches out to whom?
Well, I think that Donald Trump has shown he will sit down and talk with anyone, even if he has differences with them. But as long as Ted Cruz says he's not going to support him, he's not going to do this, and he's not going to say he's willing to sit down, then I think that he has a little give to do.
He didn't go. Mitt Romney went that far, but Ted Cruz didn't go that far.
Right. Now, let's look at the meeting that's supposed to take place on Thursday as an example. Donald Trump welcomed the meeting with Ryan and Priebus. That is a good move. He didn't say, okay, no, I'm not going to talk. No, he's willing to talk. So, but as long as Ted Cruz keeps saying, I'm not going to support the nominee, the presumptive nominee is now Donald Trump, that way he's digging in his heels and continuing to throw mud in it. When Ted Cruz suspended his campaign, I thought it was the first step on his part to help healing the Republican Party. Now he has stepped back in terms of helping to heal the Republican Party. But
what does Donald Trump need to do to heal? Because, you know, what the experts will say is the victor is normally the one expected to reach out to those who have been defeated and say, all right, come on, let's get together, you know, to be the gracious winner and try to bring those people into the fold. Now, I don't know what he's going to do about Mitt Romney, who's out there saying he will not vote for Trump or Clinton, and saying, quote, I wish we had better choices, which, you know, I mean, I don't know what the Republican Party is going to do about that, right?
Megan, we started with 17 choices. We now have one. What are they looking for? You know, probably the choice, you know, the choice they want died on the cross 2,000 years ago. I keep trying to get that message over to them. But see, Trump issued an olive branch in his Indiana victory speech when he commented on how tough a competitor Ted Cruz was. He didn't bash Cruz. He didn't bring up any of the old laundry. He said some very complimentary things about Ted Cruz. Now, I think he's extending an olive branch. But now, Cruz has done just the opposite. I'm not going to support Donald Trump. I'm not going to do this. And if there's a path to victory, which there isn't, he may consider it. I think that further divides the Republican Party.
Herman Cain, great to see you.